People think companion planting is really simple. Plant this next to this and your garden just magically works. No pests, better growth, bigger harvests. Sounds great, right? But here's the truth, y'all. That's not really how it works. And look, if you're going off of charts that you found on the internet, let's be real, you might be setting yourself and your garden up for failure. Today, I want to break down exactly what companion planting is, what actually works, and how to use it the right way in your garden. Because seriously, once you understand this, y'all, it's going to be a game changer for you. Let's knock out the biggest misconception right here. Everyone thinks, hey, I'm going to plant A next to B, and then we get this result, right? Companion plant. And here's a couple of examples. Basil next to tomatoes equal no pests. Marigolds, bugs are gone. Onions next to carrots, perfection. Y'all, here's the reality. Companion planting is not some magic shield, some invisible force field that just creates this impenetrable fortress around certain plants. It's just not the way it works. If that were the case, no one would ever deal with pests in the garden. We all know that is not the case. So what is really going on with companion planting? I'm glad you asked. Okay, part 2. What is companion planting really all about? Companion planting is not just about planting this next to this. It's honestly at the core of what companion planting is. It's all about building a strong ecosystem. Your garden is not just plants. It's a system of insects, smells, airflow, spacing, timing. And companion planting works by influencing all of those things in a harmonious way. Not by some magic force field, but by changing the environment around your plants. All right, section 3. How does it actually work? There's 3 parts to this section, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. Masking the scent of plants. Okay, so here's a misconception that a lot of people don't know. Most insects don't actually hunt by their sight, by their eyes. They hunt by smell. So when you plant strong smelling herbs next to certain plants, herbs like basil, dill, chives, those are strong smelling plants, right? They help mask the smell of other plants. And that confuses pests because, again, most pests hunt by smell. And look, you're not blocking the pests, right? They're still going to be in your garden, but you're confusing them and you're hiding the plants that they want to go after, which is basically just making it harder for them to find it. Think of it this way, if you're out in the woods and you're walking along a trail and then all of a sudden that trail vanishes, where do you go, right? That's what you're doing when you plant strong smelling herbs next to other plants. You're blocking that trail, that scent trail that those pests are following to find your plants. Best example I can give on this one is basil will mask the smell of tomato plants. The hawk moth that brings in the tomato hornworms hunt by scent. So the basil masks your tomatoes from that furry little flying punk, makes it harder for them to find the tomatoes. Now, this does not completely stop pests from being in your garden, right? But it definitely slows them down. And if nothing else, if you can hide your tomato plants, as an example, but your neighbor didn't, let your neighbor deal with them, right? You don't need to. Okay, point 2, trap crops. Now these are great crops to plant. And you might be asking, okay, what's a trap crop, right? Now this might sound a little crazy, but you're going to plant plants that will specifically attract pests to those plants. Now why would you want to do that, right? I'm going to use sunflowers as an example. I have sunflowers everywhere out here. I have them out here for 2 reasons. 1, they're beautiful, and I love the different varieties of sunflowers. 2, they attract so many pests to them that would otherwise be on your squashes, your zucchinis, your tomatoes, cucumbers, things of that nature, right? So plant a crop that will attract the pests to those plants and leave the good plants, the ones that we grow to eat the fruit off of alone. Other than sunflowers, nasturtiums, great trap crop, radishes, great trap crop, and mustard plants, great trap crop. Here's another thing. We're not eliminating the pests, right? But we are redirecting them away from our plants that we want to keep safe to plants that we don't exactly care as much about. Make sense? All right, third point. Attracting the beneficial insects, the ones that we want in the garden. Okay, certain plants like dill, for example, will bring in other insects that will target bad insects. A few of those examples are ladybugs, lacewings, hoverflies. Those three love to eat pests, especially their larvae. Their larvae will tear up some aphids and other pests like that. So you want to, again, plant crops that are going to bring in beneficial insects like those three. A couple other plants that you can plant for them would be alyssum, dill, fennel, yarrow, things like that. If you allow your basil to go to flower, those will also bring in more beneficials and pollinators also. So you're creating a great environment, an ecosystem in your garden by doing those three things through companion planting. Now this is where companion planting really shines. You're not just fighting pests alone anymore, right? It's not just you out there doing all the work, looking up under all the leaves, going through everything every day, spending all those hours out there. You're allowing your garden to help you by you building the ecosystem that thrives and benefits each other. Okay, point 4. Why do most people fail at companion planting? Well, because a lot of people think if I just do this and this, it just magically creates, like I said earlier, a force field. That's not the way it works, y'all. You get in that mindset like it's a shortcut, right? If I do this, then I don't really have to worry about this. If I plant this, I don't have to deal with that. Again, it's not exactly accurate. And here's an example. If I plant marigolds, then I'm good. I don't really have to worry about anything else. But yes, you do. Because what if you do some of the following things here? Overcrowd your plants. What if you don't create proper airflow in between your plants? What if you're not actually out there checking for pests? If you're just relying on this one trick will fix everything kind of mentality, you're going to fail. Maybe not as badly as you might think, but you're definitely not setting up your ecosystem for success. Not in the proper way. And here's the thing, you need to look at companion planting as a tool, not a solution, right? When you go in your garden and you grab your shovel, you're using that shovel for a purpose. Same thing with companion planting. You're using it as a purpose, for a purpose, with a very specifically designed outcome in mind. But that is not the sole solution. You gotta do it all together, work it all together, work the system together. All right, so what actually works? You want to do companion planting in layers. And I want you to think of them in these 4 layers. If you do these 4 layers together, think of like a really good lasagna, right? It's all layered correctly. At the end, that lasagna is the bomb, right? I mean, if you like lasagna. First layer, healthy plants, good spacing, good soil, proper watering. That is right there, right off the bat, the first layer. Layer 2, diversity. You're not monocropping, y'all. You're mixing plants together. Monocropping would be with this one bed just has this one plant in it. And then this bed only has this one plant in it. You don't want to do that. You want to polycrop. You want to plant multiple things together that will benefit each other. Again, creating that ecosystem that we're thriving for to make companion planting work. Layer 3, the beneficial support. We're planting herbs next to plants to help those plants and also bring in pollinators and or beneficial insects. That is what we're talking about right there in regards to the beneficial support. And then layer 4, simple observation. You're constantly looking. If you haven't noticed in this video, as I'm talking to you, I'm also looking at the garden, right? Constantly looking. My eyes are never not searching the garden, even while I'm talking to y'all. Because I'm always looking. Like right now, I'm seeing a lot of yellowing on my tomato plants. I'll just keep it real, show everybody. Down there at the bottom. So, it's time to fertilize, which is fine. I knew it was time. And as soon as we're done with this video, I'm gonna come back out here and fertilize the tomato bed. Again, you need to always be observing your garden at all times. And I've been saying this quite a bit lately. You want to come out into your garden with the same enthusiasm that you have to go look at that tomato that you saw yesterday, or that big giant zucchini, like that one. You need to use that same enthusiasm when you're looking for pests, when you're observing for diseases or things that just don't look right. Same enthusiasm for both. Got to. Now, I want to go over just a few simple combos that make complete and total sense really quick, and then y'all, just about done. Okay, so I wrote down some combos that make sense to me and that I use them all the time, and they're going to be the following. And like I said, I wrote them down: tomato, basil, and alyssum, peppers, onions, and herbs, brassicas, dill, yarrow. Okay, so do you notice the pattern there? Right, we're mixing crops, plant that has very strong smell, and another plant that brings in beneficial insects. That, my friends, is companion planting 101. Companion planting is not some hokey old wives' tale that doesn't work. It absolutely does work, but it's just been really, really misunderstood, I guess would be a good way of explaining that. And upon doing, and prior to me doing some deep dive research on companion planting, even though I've been doing it for 6 years, I was looking at it a bit differently also, until I did a deep dive, really thought about it, did the research, and am now looking at companion planting slightly different. It's not just about planting A next to B and getting this result. It's about creating that environment, that ecosystem that thrives and benefits everything in the garden, including you. Hopefully you're going to look at companion planting slightly different after having watched this video. If so, and you got something out of this video and you enjoyed this video, do me the 5 favors: share, like, comment, hype. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so already, and join this fast-growing community of like-minded gardeners here on YouTube. And having said all that, everybody, y'all take care. May God continue to bless each and every one of you and your gardens, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.